Om Brahmanandam Paramasugadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvaditam Gaganasadarsham Tattvamasya Laksham Ekam Nityam Bimalam Achalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhodam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam. So, Vanakkam. Tamil பேசுறவங்க நிறைய இருப்பாங்க இங்க இல்லையா? ஒரு விதமா பேசுவேன் தமிழ் மேனேஜ் பண்ண. Okay, no, my Tamil is all right. So, I see many familiar faces who don't probably live in Malaysia also. Come from somewhere else. I can see friends from Singapore, I can see other people also. This is my first, somebody said speech. This is not a speech, please. It's a satsang. There's a lot of difference between a speech and a satsang. And famous people speak, speech writers prepare notes. Either they by heart it or they keep it somewhere and refer. But this is not a speech, it's a satsang. First of all, I must thank Mr. Shashi for, I'm using only that word Shashi because it means the moon, for inviting me here. I see there are a lot of people who are seriously interested in the spiritual journey. Plus, I'm so glad that this happened for the first time in Kuala Lumpur in this place, because this is a Swami Vivekananda Ashram, and I see some Ramakrishna Paramahamsa on that side, Swami Vivekananda on this side, and some senior Swamis on either side. I don't know who they are, can't make out from the paintings, they're old. But I'm really privileged because I consider these great souls to be the harbingers of the new turn of Vedantic teaching in the world, not only in India. So, Satsang. I wish I could really speak in Tamil or Malay or some such language, but unfortunately, even in Malayalam I cannot speak that much. I mean, conversation, all right, but beyond that, no. So, I said this is going to be a satsang. Let's understand this ancient language which we have in India. Just because it originated in India, you don't have to call it Indian language. It's universal in its reach. The most modern scientific terms today, and also many of the computer terms, you can find in this ancient language. Let's not give it a denomination. It's a language. In the olden days, when the rest of the world mostly was involved in scientific discoveries of the material world, there were a set of people in ancient India who were experimenting on the inner, the mind and the soul and beyond. So therefore, we have a rich literature available to us, which in ancient times was translated into Chinese, into Tibetan, into many languages. Today, I would say much of the teachings that have spread worldwide about the Jains, the Buddhists, they all come from this source. Because at one time, when Huin Sang from China visited Takshashila, he found 250 people involved in translating. So, in this language, the word satsang means sat and sanga. Right? So, what is sat? Sat, to put it simply, means the truth. But actually it means reality. Sat. So if you say that, while all this is real, I am sitting in reality, We beg to differ. We might think this is reality, but it may or may not be. We need to give it a benefit of doubt on this matter, at least. So Sat must be, when they say Sat is reality, they must be talking about something which is really real and not looks real and may not be. May not be. The truth, which we all seek. We all seek the truth, right? Nobody would like a person, even in daily life, who cannot speak the truth. If you gather lies, how much can you gather? You know what happens to a person who tells lies? You first tell a lie, then you tell another lie to cover it up, and the third one to cover that up. And then it goes on. Ultimately, you don't know what the original lie was. You forgot. So there's always tension. What did I say before? This is daily life. What I'm talking about is universal truth, the Sat, which is the reality, as opposed to what we think is real but may not be. This is the Sat. This is the eternal search that has been going on in the spiritual field for centuries. You can give it any name you like. You can call it God, you can call it Tat, and in Vedanta that, or you can call it the divine, or you can call it the Paramatma. Simple word is Sat, the reality. Now Sanga. I said it's a Satsanga, right? This is a Sanga. When you say Sanga, it means a group of people come together to figure out how to reach towards that truth. This is the Sangha. In fact, in Buddhism, for instance, Sangha is a very important word. Right? Sangam Saranam Gacchami, which is Sanskrit actually. In Pali it may sound a little different. It means I surrender or go down or follow the Sangha, which means a group of spiritual people is what is called a sadhu satsanga. Now, if any one of you have read the wonderful collection of story-like narration called the Bhagavatam, you'll find that it begins by saying that human beings, by nature, are society animals. They cannot live in isolation. They like to talk to each other. There may be some yogis exceptionally who might be able to live in isolation. Even that is impossible nowadays. If I decide to live in isolation, there will be more people gathering to look at you. Some time ago, I thought I'm going to stop all talking, okay, Mauna, and wear a cowpeen and go and sit on the mat. There'll be more people. So, the time is past. But what the Bhagavad is talking about is the human nature of wanting to share, wanting to talk, wanting to live together as a group in society, Sangha, is very important. Don't say that it is only there in Sanskrit. There is Tamil Sangam. The thing about Dravidian and Aryan languages we need to look into little carefully. It's all there. It's all mixed up. Can't separate it like that. Anyway, that's a thing for etymologists to look into, not us. So, the Bhagavad says, therefore, to move on the spiritual field, it is very important to have a group, because individually, since you are influenced by the world, it's not so easy to move on one particular path. You are caught up by all the associates and associations and everything that you have. So the Bhagavad says, if you do not, it's true, not only because the Bhagavad says, it is true that if you don't have a sadhu satsanga, which means a group of people interested in moving forward, especially if there is a teacher, it's even better, you will fall into dursanga. That's also a sangha. in the evening, sometimes I am called to club and all to talk. So when they called me to talk, they said, there is a dress code. I said, this is my dress code. If you don't want me, I'm not coming. That's all. Actually, I wanted to wear a mundu and go. I didn't want to rub them that badly on the wrong side. I said, this is my... So finally they agreed. Okay. Now I started the satsang at 6 and stopped at 7. You know why? They're all respectable people. Without disturbing, they're listening. But at 7 o'clock, there is a gong that goes, and everybody goes to become spiritual in the bar. That's also spirit, no? It comes in the bottle, that's all. So I said, I'm stopping at 7 because you will all go. That is another Sanga. You can call it the bar Sanga. So what the Bhagavad is trying to say, it is okay. Because people want to be free a little bit. You know why people have alcohol? Because it paralyzes the central nervous system temporarily, so you feel free. We are saying that there is a beautiful spirit which we all contain, which is contained in all of us, which when imbibed, the acceleration lasts all our life and maybe many lives. It changes you from an animal to a human to a divine being. We have such an elixir with us. That elixir is what the Vedas call amrita. Swami Vivekananda, quoting the Mundaka Upanishad, declared, Amritasya putraha, offspring of immortality. This is what he was talking about. And the good news, that fountain of amrita, which keeps you intoxicated all the time and yet makes it possible for you to work in this world, because it's not something that paralyzes your central nervous system, is what we should look for. Unfortunately, it's all become ritual now. Amrita is what is prepared as prasad. It is nice, tasty of course, with honey and some ingredients. Amrita is from the Sanskrit word deathless. Mrityu is death. Amrita is deathless, which is the essential quality of every human being. To seek that, it's nectar of course, because it's very sweet. Only those who experience it know it. So, to seek that is the essence of what you call a Satsanga. A group of people sitting together, trying to find the truth. For that you have to be convinced that what normally we think is the truth may not be the truth. You have to be convinced. Otherwise, why would you seek? If you are happy with this truth, why would you seek? This is the Satsanga. This is what I want. That's all. Now, also, Maheshwarnath Babaji, whose picture you see here, who was my personal guru, and who was connected to Sri Guru Babaji. He was one of his most important disciples. Maheshwarnath Babaji gave me one mission, which means I'm doing it because of that. If you ask me honestly, there is no need to do all this. I told Babaji when I was with him, after 2 years of staying with Maheshwarnath Babaji, one day he told me in Hindi. We used to talk normally in Hindi. He told me, after some time, बहुत सारे लोग सुनने आएंगे, सत्संग होगा, I'll explain. सबको सिखाना पड़ेगा. Which means he said after some years, many people will come to listen to you. You'll have to hold satsangs and teach them. I put both my hands up and said, Babaji, this is not going on. I don't want to do it. Please leave me out of this. Imagine the situation when it was told. I was alone with Babaji, walking wherever we wanted to go, no agenda also. You don't have to get into a flight at 10:30 and free. And beautiful breeze, lovely forest, snow-capped Himalayas, pure water of the Ganga. It had still not got that polluted. Now it is better. He said, Babaji, why are you doing this to me? I don't want to do all these things. I will stay with you forever. He said, but I am not there forever. I am also going. I said, that's all right, but at least I'll stay with you as long as you're there. I will meditate, I will learn, I will walk. It will be so nice. Why should I go back and get stuck in the mud? I told him, why kichad mein kyun phasa rahe? Why you want me to go back and get stuck in the mud? He said, listen, you do as you're told. Again I said, no. He said, look, when you first came here, after 1 year, I asked you, what do you think of yourself in relationship to me? What do you think? I said, I'm like your dog, puppy dog. You know, olden days we had HMV, his master's voice. There was a huge loudspeaker and there's a dog sitting up like this looking. In fact, we used to, in school, we used to ask, is that a he dog or a female dog? What do you think? That dog is male or female? Must be male, it's his master's voice, right? Anyway, so I said, I'm like that puppy. I just sit there, I look at you, I see you, I listen to you, I think about what you said, I walk with you. Sanga chatvam. Let us work together. I walk with you. Oh, why are you doing this to me? I said, you said that, right? That you are a puppy dog. Yes. Okay. And what did I say? I thought for some time. Then I remembered. You said, you may be my puppy dog, but don't wag your tail too much. You said that? I said, yes. You said that. I said that. I said, yes, you said that. So now stop wagging your tail and do exactly what I'm asking you. So I agreed. So this is why I'm going through all this trouble. I mean, not trouble, sorry. But you honestly, well, I like seeing places and all. That's a different story. But what do you mean nice to just sit somewhere quietly and meditate? And those who want will come there. No? But it's not working. It's an order. I am his bonded laborer. I am doing the work. So, Satsanga. So, sorry, I was talking about the Satsanga. Now, this truth which we discussed, and this Sanga, which means people who are looking at it sincerely, naturally a kind of guide is required because it's largely unexplored territory. Might fall into pits. If somebody has walked, they will say, look, watch out, this is the pit, move. So that there is a guide. Usually there is a guide. I'm saying you need to only consider me like that. We should think of each other as very good friends. Although some of us are meeting for the first time, how do you know? I believe in many lives. How do you know we are meeting? We don't know. Anyway, leave it at that. Babaji said to me once, if you go anywhere, to any house, meet anybody or any country, don't think that you're going there for the first time. I said, why? He said, because I've already been there. So when somebody says you're new, I said, yeah, okay, on the face value, yes, fine. So I just want you to think of me as a good friend, who probably has walked somewhere which you may not have fully walked to, and having been through that, trying to share the experiences with you so that it will look easier for you to move forward. That's all I want you to do. It's most important to listen and to practice what is being said than to simply say, oh, you are my good. I know lots of people who have given Kriya Yoga, for instance. Kriya Yoga is our parampara. I'm not saying that those who don't practice Kriya Yoga are not spiritual. Please. When people used to come to Maheshwarnath Babaji and say, I want to have Kriya Yoga, he used to ask, what Kriya did Mirabai practice? You know, you've heard of Mirabai, she was a great devotee of Krishna. She didn't do any Kriya, but she had darshan of Krishna. Or he used to ask, on the other side, what Kriya did Ramana Maharishi practice? Nothing. So it's not as if only those who practice Kriya will attain to spiritual perfection. This is not my way of thinking. Although it is my parampara, I'll defend it with all my might, yes. But that's not true. Also, in the Yoga Shastra, there are many Kriyas. So when I say Kriya, it comes from a certain source, Babaji's Kriya. There may be other Kriyas. You cannot say they don't exist because the yoga system is so wide and so detailed. Maybe other Kriyas also. So, now why did I talk about Kriya? I think many people want to take Kriya. Might be a good opportunity, so they might be thinking. So this is why, but why did I connect to Kriya? Can you tell me? Why don't you speak? It's a dialogue. Why did I refer to Kriya now? There must be some link. Yes, sir? Huh? No. Yeah, both are correct, but what linked me to this? Okay. What I was trying to say is that while practice on one hand is important, you should have a reason why you're practicing it. If you start prematurely practicing something, even Kriya, if I give it to you. I know good friends who have taken Kriya from me 8 years ago or 10 years ago and have practiced only on that day. What do you do? No use. Absolutely no use. So, even if you take Kriya, you should practice. So, abhyasa is very important. Constant practice. Without that, nobody can reach the goal. Because the mind which is accustomed to be caught up in petty things needs to be lifted and put on to something which is important. And that comes only through practice. Because all our life we've been allowing your mind to go on to petty things and dissipate our energies. You need to gather your energies together to look into this because it is a very serious matter. Right? It's not a hobby. It's not as if I'm doing something, then I will also add some Kriya. It's not like that. And if you need to know more about this, I would suggest there's no better literature to read than the complete works of Swami. I'm not saying it because I'm sitting here. Complete works of Swami Vivekananda. There is no mumbo jumbo, there is nothing. It's straightforward. Looking into the truth. And also I want you to understand that I don't want you to clone me, to become clones. You be your individual, independent selves and practice spiritually. Here is an example. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was a guru of Swami Vivekananda. How different are they? Here was an almost unlettered person worshipping Bhadrakali in the temple. From there he went up to spiritual heights. Here is a person, well educated, who's decided that I should cross the seas and go abroad and spread the message, who was quite different from Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, and yet Ramakrishna said, he is my successor. He didn't clone him. He didn't grow a beard like him. He didn't go without a shirt like he did. He dressed well, he walked, he spoke good English. So, it's the spiritual content that matters, not imitation, cloning, unimportant things. Most important thing is the heart. Is the heart moving, changing, moving forward? This is the message that Babaji has asked me to give to everybody. And that's where we started. And we need not change your robes for that. Tomorrow I don't want to see all men wearing an orange Bandgala, I'm coming. You see, it's so beautiful. Truth is so multidimensional that it manifests itself in different states, different forms, different practices. Nothing need to be put into a straitjacket. It's free. You cannot catch the truth, which is infinite, and put it into a straitjacket. It is Paramashivam, the all-pervading Supreme Sarashiva. How can we limit it to anything? You cannot do that. Okay. Now, having said that, I was told that you had some discussion on whether the Bhagavad Gita should be the first time satsang. So you can't have the Bhagavad Gita, all the 18 chapters in one satsang. This is not possible. Maybe if you start with one chapter and go on for a few days, you might finish that chapter and move to the next and so on, which we need to reserve for some other occasion. We can't do it like this. Anyway, I'm not promising that I'll come back. This is not what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's not a nice place. Okay, fine. I see a lot of interested people. The universal to the particular is the way one understands Vedanta, not from the particular to the universal, which is the usual way of understanding things. And the Bhagavad Gita, please note the word Bhagavad Gitam. Incidentally, I would suggest if somebody wants to read a good English translation and a very impartial, straightforward English translation of the Gita, please read the Ramakrishna Mission publication, the translation by Swami Tapasyananda. Beautiful, very simple, straightforward. I'm saying this because I'm in some way associated with the Ramakrishna Mission also, because Swami Tapasyananda was a disciple of Mahapurush Maharaj, Swami Shivananda, one of the not the Rishikesh, one of the direct disciples of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Swami Vivekananda himself called him Mahapurush Maharaj. His sannyas name was Shivananda. Swami Tapasyananda was initiated by Swami Shivananda, and he also served Holy Mother Sharda Devi for many years in Calcutta in the early days. And the Ramakrishna tradition has a mantra which is given only by the president or the vice president later on, who is considered to be sitting on Thakur's seat. So the Ramakrishna's Diksha mantra was given to me by Swami Tapasyananda. So I also consider him as one of my Upagurus. I'm not saying because of that, because he was really a profound person. So this translation is very good. Recommending. Not compelling, recommend. Now, Bhagavad Gita. See the word Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavat, everybody knows. No? Not Mohan Bhagavat. No, Bhagavat. Everybody knows. Which means, actually both are same. Mohan is Krishna. Anyway, the Gita, the first word is Bhagavat. That means the Supreme Being. And what is the next word? Gitam, song. So, in a literal translation, it would be the song of the Lord. Bhagavad Gita. Although it's generally chanted, it's not sung, but Bhagavad Gita. Now, why would they call it a Gitam? A song. I want you to understand this before we go into the deeper aspects, the details of the Bhagavad Gita. It's supposed to belong to the Bhishma Parva of the Mahabharata. And the author is considered to be Vyasa. And the Vedantic students who want to study Vedanta, in their curriculum, there are three important texts which are referred to. One is, of course, the Upanishad. And the second, not in this order, the second is the Brahma Sutras. Now the Brahma Sutras are tough. I would not suggest that a beginner in spiritual practice should start with the Brahma Sutra. Can you imagine a text that starts saying, now we shall look into the Brahman. So, Atato Brahma Jijnasa. Here begins the study of the Brahman. Now, then there is the Upanishad, which we have tried to simplify as much as possible. Swami Vivekananda did a good job of it as much as he could. We have also done that as much as we can, because it was Babaji's command, simplify the Upanishad. Because people avoid usually Upanishad, oh, that is for sannyasins. Now the in-between one, the third part of the curriculum, it's called the Prasthana Traya actually, is the Bhagavad Gita. Why the Bhagavad Gita? Because the Bhagavad Gita simplifies the teachings of the hoary, the ancient Upanishads to understandable form for you and me. You see, this is the simple thing about the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita itself declares that it's an Upanishad. At the end of every chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Vyasa says, Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita, so this is the Bhagavad Gita. Upanishad, so it is the Upanishad. Brahma Vidyayam, what does the Upanishad teach? The knowledge of the Supreme Sat, the truth, the Brahman. Then he also adds Yoga Shastre, it is also the technique by which you understand the Brahma Vidya, which is Yoga. Sri Krishna Arjuna, Samvade, the dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. This is how every chapter ends. So, Bhagavad Gita is self-professedly an Upanishad, the teaching of the Upanishad. But divided into 18 chapters and put in such simple language, you must also remember that it was taught in a battlefield. Kurukshetra. Now, this battlefield, you need not think of Kurukshetra. This is our everyday battlefield in this world. We are all Arjunas. Unfortunately, we don't have a Krishna at the helm, or the charioteer. Sarathi is not there, this is the problem. But we are all like Arjunas, in the middle and the thick of the battlefield. So it is more important because in the middle of this world, which is like a battlefield, you can still understand the inner meaning of what the Brahman or the spirit of your Atman is. This is the whole thing of the Gita. Arjuna is taught there, not in a cave, remember. And nowhere else except in the Bhagavad Gita is Krishna taking on the role of a guru. Everywhere else he does many things. In Vrindavan he is cavorting with the gopis. I wish we could do Bhagavad sometime. Beautiful. Or he's sitting as a charioteer and taking Arjuna into the battlefield. Or he is doing 101 things, but as a guru, as a teacher, Sri Paramatmane Namaha, this is how every chapter starts. Krishna becomes a guru in that. Very interesting character, but anyway. So, now the thing is, why would Vyasa call it the Gitam, the song? We look at it carefully. We have looked at roughly what the Bhagavad Gita is all about. It's the Upanishad. The great teachings of the Upanishad, which sometimes the Upanishad itself declares cannot even be understood through words. Yad vacha na bhyutitam. Because what cannot be understood through words can be understood through songs. The great teachings of the Upanishad, which the Upanishad says, yan manasana manyute, which even the mind cannot grasp, can be understood through music, because they're not through song, because they're not words. Right? In fact, while declaring his Mahimas in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 10th chapter, Krishna says, among the Vedas, I am Samaveda. Say, among the mountains, I am the Meru and so on. What about the Vedas? He didn't say Rig Veda. I'm not saying Rig Veda is less important. Gayatri comes from the Rig Veda. But he said, Vedanam Samavedosmi, I am the Samaveda. I know many of you may know that the entire system of music in India is built up from the Samaveda. Nobody says you chant the Samaveda. They say Samagayanti. We sing the Samaveda. In fact, 85% of the Samaveda is Rigveda. But it's in song form. Like during the COVID, somebody said, somebody at the WHO, not even an Indian, he said, we hum your way to health. Because the humming is a practice called Brahmari in Kriya. It has saved many people from lung infections. That's a different story. Anyway, so, and also without music, what is life? See, the classical music that we have in this country. Now, let me come to this music, okay. Now, have you thought about this wonderful thing of, is it possible for most of us to think without a language? It's Vedanta, okay, I'm not trying to move from the subject, don't worry. Is it possible to think without a language? Try. Either I'm thinking in Tamil or Hindi or English or Malay, I'm thinking. It's always a language structure in my thought, right? So the question from this is there a thought without a language? Yes, very simple. Feelings don't have a language. They get translated into language afterwards. But when they arise, they don't have a language. Feelings. Right? So this is thought without a language. And the structure of thought destroys the purity of the feeling. I want to tell you a story which comes actually from the Bible, from the Old Testament. There was a great king whose name was Nimrod. He decided to build a tower. It's supposed to be bigger than the pyramids. Very big tower. He wanted it so high. You know, when ego gets into people in power, it can do anything. He decided that he would build a tower so that when he goes to the top of the tower, on the terrace, and shoots an arrow, it will hit God's footstool. The Old Testament. So he built this tower. People from all nations came to help him. What you should remember is that in those days there was no language. They communicated with each other, probably through thought, because otherwise people from all nations cannot understand each other and build this whole skyscraper. It's not a skyscraper, it was a heaven scraper. So finally, they all came and the thing was built. So Nimrod climbed up. I don't know if he had a lift. Went to the top of the terrace and fired an arrow. And the arrow is supposed to have hit God's footstool. Not God, but God's footstool. So the God decided that this fellow's ego is now too much now. This can't be let go of without notice. So you know what happened? He did not send thunder or lightning or anything of the kind. He did like this, and every person there started speaking in a different language. There was complete confusion and chaos. They couldn't understand each other. They fought each other. The whole tower collapsed. This is the story. Why? Because they had forgotten the mind link between human beings. It was caught in the structure of language. So, a song is that which is beyond the structure of all thought. It comes, well, when you read to write a song and all that, you need your mind, I understand. But when music, look, music requires no language. If somebody, Krishna, or takes a flute and plays the flute, do you need any language to understand it? When the flute was played in Govardhan, all the gopis forgot what they were doing in rain. Music. Every religious practice has some music involved in it because of this. Because it appeals to you and touches your heart more than any words can. Kirtans, bhajans. See, more than that, it is like if you play Beethoven, classical music, Western, do you need a language to enjoy it? You don't. So it is closer to the soul than any words. Music. So therefore, the Bhagavad Gita was called the Song of the Lord because it goes deep into your heart. It doesn't depend on any structures. It takes away all structures and takes deep into the heart. This is the Bhagavad Gita. And it has 18 chapters. And please remember, as I said earlier, every chapter of the Gita ends by saying that it is the teaching of Brahma Vidya, the Upanishad. And this can best be understood even in the battlefield through a dialogue. Because it is Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade, the samvad between. Now when you say samvad, it's not an argument. Sama, the word is used, right? Samvad means on equal footing we are discussing something. It's a dialogue. Two are involved, not one person going, even though in the Bhagavad Gita, even though it's called a dialogue, Krishna speaks most of the time, of course, because he knows what he's saying. Arjuna butts in every now and then. You can't say no. He says, no, I can't do this. You go to 6th chapter of the Gita, Dhyana Yoga. Krishna says to Arjuna, your mind should become like a flame when there is no wind. And Arjuna says, I cannot do it. This is not possible. Maybe I can control the wind, but I cannot make my mind like that. Then he explains, okay. Then when he is down, he praises him and raises his mind up. He calls him Mahabaho, mighty armed one. And then takes him up, explains to him how to go. So it's a dialogue. A dialogue is very important for spiritual understanding. The Upanishads have all been dialogues. So if somebody says to you, just follow what I am, don't ask. Don't put your brain into cold storage. No Upanishad asks you to do that. No ancient teaching asks you. Of course they say this is beyond all thought. Yes, understood. There's no harm in discussing. But it should be a dialogue and not an argument. There is a difference. Argument means you are stuck to something. I am stuck to something. And I am convinced I am right. And you are convinced you are right. How can there be a dialogue? This is an argument. I say something, you say, no, it's not. A dialogue is when you and I are sitting together and trying to look at something together. This is a dialogue. Look at Krishna and Arjuna. He's like his friend and his relative and actually his charioteer. Today, Shashi was driving me. He's Krishna sitting in the road. I don't know how to drive in this traffic. So I'm listening patiently. We are discussing matters. Yesterday, is there so much traffic all the time here? And so on. Now, if you go back, since the Gita says it is an Upanishad, let's look at the Upanishadic dialogues, some of them. There are beautiful dialogues. If you go to the Chandogya Upanishad, one of the principal Upanishads, 11 Upanishads, a father is explaining to the son about the truth, about the reality. The son has already gone to some other rishi and come back. And so the father asks him, have you found the truth? So the son says, I think I have. So the father says, either you have or you have not. You can't say, I think I have. Not in these words, but... And then he says, okay, now let me teach you the Upanishadic way. So he shows him a banyan tree out there. He says, go there. You see the banyan tree? Yes, sir. Those were good days, when sons used to call father, sir. So, yes, sir. To go there, pick up a seed of the banyan tree and bring it to me. So he brings the seed of the banyan tree. Father says, peel it. So he peels it. What do you see? I see the kernel inside. Okay? He says, peel it. Now what do you see? I see his little black seeds inside. This is from the Chandogya. Black seeds inside. Okay. Take one of the seeds and peel it. He peels it. What do you see? I see nothing. So the father says to the son, it is from this nothing that this whole banyan tree has come. That means something that appears to be nothing, but which is much more powerful and much more live than all the things that you think are some things. So nothing doesn't mean nothing, it means no thing. To find something which is not a thing by itself, which cannot be defined. And the good news is it is our eternal essence. It's right here. One doesn't have to go around anywhere. It's right here in your hearts. All the gods that we worship are manifestations of that supreme truth which is universal and which is sits inside the altar of your hridaya. This is the truth. So the Bhagavad Gita, therefore, takes you into this path. At the end of it, Arjuna is still asking questions. There is another beautiful Gita that appears in the Bhagavatam called the Uddhava Gita, where Krishna explains to Uddhava, see, I explained the whole Gita to Arjuna, but I'm a little concerned whether it is understood, so I'm teaching you this. So, the essence of this whole chapter, the Gita, this 18 chapters, will be found if you look at the first chapter of the Gita. I'm not going to go into details, but the first chapter of the Gita is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Yoga of Arjuna's sorrow, yoga of Arjuna's confusion, yoga of Arjuna's uncertainty. Why we have to use so many words? Because Sanskrit language, one word has full concentrated meanings which are many. So Vishada could be sorrow, Vishada could be confusion, Vishada could be uncertainty, Vishada could be insecurity, it could be any one of these. Basically sorrow. So just remember that the first chapter of the Gita starts with Arjuna's sorrow. Why? Because it's only when some sorrow strikes one that generally human beings get interested in spiritual matters. Otherwise everything is okay. I have a good job, I have a good wife, if you are married, and if you do have one, I have good this, I have good that, then God is just to light a lamp in the morning and go to office, that's it. No serious wanting to inquire into what it is doesn't arise. Dukh mein smiran sab kare, sukh mein kare na koi. Said in pain everybody does smaran. Simran is the Punjabi version of smaran. But in happiness they don't have time for doing all that. You just say, Vaheguru and go off, that's all. So, when you come into a certain situation which seems to be having no solutions whatsoever from our worldly point of view, that most people begin to inquire if there is something beyond. Am I wasting my life? Comes. And if you still haven't faced that kind of a serious problem, and if you're still young, you can see others facing problems and understand. You don't have to burn your own finger to say that the fire can burn your finger. You can see others burning their fingers. Good enough. When this happens, then one begins to think, is there more to life? Am I just this body and mind which is suffering, or am I something more? This is the beginning of the Gita. Understanding of the inquiry of the Supreme Being. And then he goes on leading through different chapters. Sankhya, Karma Yoga, so on and so forth, till the Sannyasa Yoga. And again, many places Gita repeats that sannyasa is not changing your robes or shaving your head, but is to do with your mind. Not stopping all work, but doing all work totally dedicated without being attached to the fruits. Doesn't miss a single place to mention this again and again. So this is the Bhagavad Gita. So I wish when you read the Bhagavad Gita, you read it in this context, that it's not merely one particular approach that has been described. There are different approaches to the same truth. This is another message of the Gita, because each chapter is called Sankhya, Dhyana, Sankhya Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Purushottama Yoga. You see the different verses used, and all are called yoga. So this is another message of the Gita, that what you seek is infinite. There must be different ways to find it. This is one beautiful message of the Gita. In ancient Jain sources, Jainism, the Jain teachings of the Tirthankaras, has been almost as old as the Vedic teachings. Has been there side by side. Of course, it's quite extreme to follow the Jain teachings. Their ahimsa is very difficult for ordinary human being to follow. Ahimsa paramo dharma. And yet, it's an old tradition, very old tradition. Many people don't even know that the Jain philosophy is even atheistic. They believe in the immortality of the soul, but there is no Ishvara concept. Imagine what age, when. So when ancient sages looking at some new world atheists and agnostics, they smile because they have seen this long ago. There's a new book some years ago came out called The God Delusion. Richard Dawkins. I read through. I was only hoping sometime we can meet and discuss this matter. But even in that book, he says the Jains he has seen are the most original people, because they believe without fear of being punished, they believe in non-violence. So now, in the ancient Jain sources, there is a story which was later adopted and now made famous not because of the Jain system but because of the Sufis. There was a great Sufi teacher called Jalal-ud-Din Rumi who wrote the Masnavi and so on. In fact, I inspired some people in Bangalore to make a play with Ishavasya Upanishad and the Masnavi put together. It was very interesting. Anyway, so Rumi has adopted this story from Jain sources, and this story is now popular as a Rumi story. It's about three blind men who go to figure out what an elephant is. Three blind men going to figure out what an elephant is. Remember, they're blind. So there is an elephant there. That is true. There is an elephant. One of the blind men touches the foot of the elephant and says that an elephant is like a big pillar, but rough. And we have been told that if you go too close, it's possible that you might be crushed under it. His definition of the elephant. He can't see, remember? The second blind man touches the trunk of the elephant. And he says it is like a rubber hose. I mean, whatever hose. It moves constantly and makes sounds every now and then. And we have also been warned that if you go too close, you can be caught and smashed to the ground. This is the definition of the elephant, second man's. The third man touches the tail of the elephant. And he says an elephant is like a swinging twig, which has, in those days there were no bathroom brushes, so they didn't know, with bristles. It was moving up and down. And if you go too close, you might be hurt. Definition of an elephant. Now a huge fight started between the three of them, saying who is the right person, which is the right definition of an elephant. So much so, the fight became quite a physical fisticuffs, and somebody was going to strangle somebody else because he didn't agree with him. He said, this is the elephant. He said, no, this is the elephant. I have touched it. I know it. And that is when a man entered who was not blind. You can say a spiritual teacher, someone whose eyes are open. Somebody said, therefore, if thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Maybe somebody with the Trinetra open. Like Sadashiva sitting with his eyes closed in the third eye open like that. Or maybe they actually were not blind, so they entered. And they saw this fight going on. So he said, what is this going on? They said, no, this is the definition of an elephant. He said, can you stop it? Can I please tell you this? He said, you're right. You're right. You're also right. This cannot be, sir. How can I be right and he be right? It cannot be. He said, but you're also wrong. He said, how is this? They said, because I have eyes and I can see. An elephant is much more than you can describe. You have to only touch certain parts, and that is your definition of the elephant. An elephant is the infinite Brahman. None of your definitions match it. Yet, your definitions match it because that is all you know about it. I who can see that the elephant is much more than all your definitions put together. Quote the Kena Upanishad, Yat vacha anabhyutitam yana vaga abhyutyate tadeva brahmatvam vidvi. Understand that alone is the truth which words fail to capture, but because of the existence of which we are able to formulate words. This is something that the Gita brings out beautifully much before Rumi. And I would say maybe before the Jain systems, even before the first Tirthankara. Although the first Tirthankara is supposed to be Adinath. In our tradition, Adinath is none other than Paramashiva. I belong to I don't wear the wings. Paramashiva, and the Supreme Being in its original form. In his original form, meaning a person whose mind is completely quiet, all the vrittis have been removed. As Patanjali said, Chitta vritti nirodha. And all the vrittis of the chitta have gone, and the mind is crystal clear, reflecting only the divine. Such a mind is free of all these contradictions. It has no contradictions. It has no distractions. It is such a mind that reflects the Purusha. In Yoga Darshana and Sankhya, it's called Purusha. In Vedanta, it's called the Brahman. So this is what we seek. And why do we seek it? Because here we need to... What time did we start? We have still time. So, you know why? Because such matters, after an hour or hour and a half, the mind, you may be sitting here, but the mind may be going somewhere. So anyway, the serious matters we are discussing. So what did I say? Please, I want to be sure you're awake and... Exactly. See, got it. This is a good satsang. Yes. So, it's because, first let me go to another ancient Upanishadic dictum, not dictum, statement. Everybody must have heard it. It is chanted during many satsangs, but unfortunately, this particular language is at a premium. We don't know what we are saying. There are other sections of society also who chant but don't know what they are saying because they don't know what the language is. I don't want to mention anything. But we have heard this everywhere. Om Poornamadah Poornamidam Poornat Poornamaduchyate Purnasya Poornamahaya Poornameva Avashishyate. We chant. What does it mean? What is that trying to say? You can only hear Purna everywhere. What is this Purna? So, the Upanishad says, Poornamadah, that essence or source from this entire universe has come, is complete, is Purna. Right? But the question is, that may be Purna, so what has that got to do with me? Because I am always incomplete, Impurna. Not Impurna, Unpurna. Apurna in Sanskrit. I am always incomplete. I am searching for completeness. Right? The Rishi says, this search for completeness or perfection is because the source from which we come is Purna. We find that we are not Purna. We try to find it, to get back to that Purnata, but in the wrong direction. What wrong direction? We think that by gathering things, or by adding things, or by getting more degrees, or whatever we do in this world, we will reach, because it is built in, the source is Purna. So the mind is always aspiring towards that fullness, completeness, Purnata, completeness, fullness, fulfillment. The mind has a built-in system by which it wants to reach there, but the direction is in a different, wrong direction. We follow the Pravritti Marga instead of what Vedanta called the Nivritti Marga. Turn back and look. It's not against the Pravritti Marga. Nobody can live in this world without Pravritti, understood. But occasionally at least one should have a Nivritti, which means go back and look. This thing, this completeness, this Purna which I am searching for, is it outside or inside? Turn around. Now the Veda says, Poornamadah Poornamidam. It says this is also complete. But we see that it is not complete, so we are trying to find that completeness in whatever way is possible. For some time I'm alone, bachelor, I'm very happy. Then I think, maybe if I have a lover or a partner or a wife, I will be happier. Right? Why? Because I'm still seeking completeness. And then I find somebody, and then what happens? Maybe you are happy, I don't know. There was a great man who once called everybody and put a chalk line, okay? And I'm a married man, okay, let me. I've put a chalk line and said all married people stand on that side, all unmarried people stand on the other side, and all of you who are not happy with your situations cross the line. Everybody crossed. It doesn't depend on that. We think it may be possible to become more happy. In fact, the unicellular organism called the amoeba thinks it can become happy by becoming two. Binary fission, it's called split. Anyway, the whole attempt is to find that completeness. This way or that way. We marry, then we have children. Why? Because we are not, we want it to continue. Continuity is supposed to be fulfillment. So, this is built into our system to seek the complete, because we see everything is incomplete. So we are seeking the complete, the Poornata. The Upanishad says it is right here for you. Poornamidam, this is also Purna, if you only find out for yourself. And this has come from that, and that remains undiminished always. Purnasya Poornamadaya Poornameva Vasishyate. The nearest you can go is to Einstein's theory of energy. Matter can neither be created nor this is physical. I'm talking about something else. It's always there, complete, Purna. And the human tendency to reach that is always there, and it is reflected in how we try to reach it in the outside world. Nothing wrong. It's because it is built in. Now, the spiritual teachers come and say, look, this completeness that you're seeking is actually you in your true form, in your true reality, in the heart of you. You are the same thing. Turn around and look. There was a great weaver saint in India, in Banaras, called Kabir Das. He has spoken of it several times about the story of what we call the Kasturi Mriga. There is a musk deer, M-U-S-K, musk, which is used in perfumes. There is a small deer which lives in the Himalayas, upper Himalayas. It's called the Kasturi Mriga, the musk deer. The numbers have diminished now because instead of taking the musk, people kill the deer and take them. Yeah. And in a certain season, under its belly there is a little pouch which produces kasturi, musk. There's a beautiful fragrance in the air. And the poor deer, looking for the source of the fragrance, not knowing that it's coming from its underbelly, goes looking for it all over the forest, poking its snoot into thorny bushes, bleeding, but not knowing that it's coming from me. So this Purnata, this Ananda, Satchidananda, we will explain it later in the evening session, is part and parcel of our own being. When the mind has freed itself from all distraction, when it is immersed in the feeling of devotion also, when it is not anymore disturbed by outer things, when it sits in its own state of being, it's found the pouch from where the musk comes from, inside. So it's the direction of the search that is the problem, not the search. Search is important. If you don't find it inside, search it outside, okay. But at some point you discover that this Purnata does not come anywhere from outside, it's inside. For that, you should learn to let go. I'm not saying give up. Let go. Beautiful statement in the Ishavasya Upanishad. Tena tyaktena bhunjita. Let go and rejoice. It's not if you hold on, you cannot rejoice. Let go. But from childhood we are taught gather, 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 gather. And we think we are happy, then we are not happy. Then gather more, still not happy, then keep gathering. You know that the economy of this whole world, the problem is not that we don't have money. Distribution. Right? We are all gathering. cannot think of giving. When you find that the source of all fulfillment is in us, the tendency to give will start. And you will realize that nature's rule is that when you give, you receive. So, seek for that inner self, which is Shivam. Chidananda Roopaha Shivoham, Shivoham, Nirvana Shatakam. True essence of my being is that Supreme Shivam, who is bliss and consciousness, Chit Ananda, bliss, consciousness and bliss. That is what the whole process of spiritual seeking ultimately boils down to that. So, in the evening session, we will have a little bit of question answers about the session that we had in the morning. But I will also then go to the next aspect, which is so important, but which people think is not so important. Only meant for common folk, for villagers who don't know any Vedanta, bhakti. Is that so unimportant? It is most. We will come to that in the evening. In the evening session, this is not an intellectual exercise. Let's get this clear. Intellect is necessary to understand these things, but the most intelligent person very soon understands the limitations of the intellect. If intelligence is not important, why would we chant the Gayatri? What is the last sentence of the Gayatri? Dhyo yona prachodayat. May my intelligence be stimulated. So it's not against intelligence. But the thing is, the most intelligent person very soon realizes the limitations of our constructive mind, of the intellectual brain, because what we are looking at is beyond the scope of ordinary thinking. So, therefore Vedanta is not for putting your brains in the cold storage. No, it's the person who understands deeply knows that in this matter it doesn't work. It's beyond that. We will get into that when we look at Bhakti Yoga. So, in the evening section of the Satsang, I'm going to deal with the 12th chapter of the Gita, which is called Bhakti Yoga. Not entirely, not sloka by sloka, impossible, but we'll have an understanding of what Bhakti Yoga means in the Bhagavad Gita. What does Krishna say to Arjuna? So we will reserve the evening session for 15-20 minutes of or 15-20 minutes of discussion. If you have any questions relevant to the topic, no political questions, please. And then we will go into the 12th chapter of the Gita and look into that. That will be the evening satsang. When I say we are going to have a discussion, I would suggest that it should be as much as possible based on the morning satsang, not on some other matters. And anything connected to that. For instance, if I have mentioned yoga or dhyana, you can ask questions about that. So, we'll call it to a close for the time being. I want to go up. You said there is a linga there. Let me go up and see. And then they will all have lunch arranged. Because the Veda declares Annam Brahma, food is also Brahman. So, thank you very much. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.